One of the things that I've been harping on this channel a lot is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision that essentially grants a extra constitutional right to homeless people to camp in public if there aren't sufficient alternatives for those homeless people. It claims that it's a Ninth Amendment violation in order to arrest them, and because of this law, along with other criminal justice reforms, we're starting to see asinine day after asinine day in a lot of West Coast areas. And this is not solely limited to left-wing cities, because again, the Ninth Circuit Court covers a bunch of those states, and you might have these problems, and they might be out of the hands of your city council, your county commissioner, just based on the fact that you're in the jurisdiction to which this ruling applies. However, it is worse in left-wing cities. It is worse in places where the police have been defanged, defunded, or similar, and a perfect example of this is the way that fires have been perking up in a lot of these encampments, and the response to the fires, which again are an obvious crime, it's called arson, are comical to say the least. And when I say comical, I mean hilarious in the beginning, but then absolutely tragic when you stop to think about it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you to everybody. Sign up, actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. So I've been combing through the numbers of arsons in the city of Seattle, and in my attempt to find hard statistics that I could present to you, I found absurd story after absurd story, and I figure I should just bring them all together for you guys so you could see what's going on. Now, one of the first headlines that really caught my eye was the fact that Seattle experienced 7 different arsons over the course of 7 days. Now, these fires occurred between July 13th and July 20th, and they ranged from dumpster fires to fires in abandoned buildings to fires in occupied apartment buildings that were located near and around hotels. The first of the 7 actually happened in a vacant building on 9th Avenue and Madison Street on First Hill, where a 26-year-old man had to be carried out as the building burned. The 4-story apartment building is near hotels and Virginia Mason Hospital. Firefighters were concerned that the flames would spread. Now, most of the fires in between happened in dumpsters, garbage bins, and or stairwells of occupied buildings in dense areas with homes and businesses nearby. And there was also a vacant building that had a 2-alarm fire sent in July 20th to cap off the week. Now, if you'll remember, we actually covered on this channel a fire in a homeless encampment that was in between the highway and the local hospital, and they ended up letting the homeless people set up new barriers because this was a war between the homeless people and they were powerless to stop them. But today's fire actually occurred in a homeless encampment, and there were no charges for the arsonist.
A black cloud fills the Seattle skyline. A massive fire burns feet from apartments and rush hour traffic Monday evening.
I mean, look at that fire right there. Look at how insane that is. Look at the cloud of smoke over the city of Seattle. And remember, wildfires in the summer are a giant problem in the Pacific Northwest of this country. And arson, I don't know if you guys know this, setting a fire intentionally can actually lead to fire spreading. This is a serious thing, and obviously if you're in these areas, they're clearly highly populated, there's a ton of traffic going through, and you should treat this incredibly seriously. And locals who were nearby, near and around this homeless encampment, who had been warning about it for a long time, felt the impact of these arsons and were terrified.
I thought I should leave and not get out of the building because this fire might spread.
A terrifying situation for Nero Mulchandani. He watched the flames inch closer to his apartment across the street until fire crews arrived. He tells me this fire is not the first time the encampment created concern for him.
So this is another problem that we're seeing with these encampments. The fires in the encampments and the fact that these fires are set intentionally is the fact that these cities, these local municipalities, have fair warning that things are going south, but they refuse to act, partially due to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, but partially due to a misguided sympathy for homeless people, which, by the way, if you want the homeless people to be safe and secure, letting them live in these encampments that are vulnerable to fire, virtual death traps, is not very sympathetic at all.
Not very great having incidents like this close to home.
So I like the fact that this guy said incidents like this are close to home in response to a segment about how the fire was approaching his apartment building up until the moment that firefighters arrived. Yes, quite literally, it was close to home. I'm glad you got that punning energy. I really appreciate it right here in this story, but in reality, this is due to a great policy failure in the city of Seattle, and you shouldn't be punning away. You shouldn't be having such a good time because this is deadly serious.
3 days after the flames tore through this encampment, the scattered debris and destruction sit untouched. Tape blocks off part of the fence, but a wide open gate just a few feet away allows people to come and go to the burned out campsite as they please.
So if there's anything that really distills the ineffectiveness of left-wing progressive governance, it's this right here. The fact that they tape off part of the fence that had this fire happen within this encampment, but at the same time, there's a wide open gate that lets anybody come in and out because it's a caution sign, but in reality and actuality, don't let the fire danger or anything like that deter the god-tier rights that homeless people have in the western part of this country to put themselves in danger, put others in danger, because being homeless as a virtue grants you these superior rights to everyone. And by the way, I'm not joking about this. Like I said, the guy who set this fire, this intentional arson, was not even charged. It's not like he was charged with a misdemeanor. He wasn't charged at all.
Nero has questions.
Why was this not addressed earlier? And the second question I would ask is, what are you doing about it now?
Fox 13 News asked the city these questions. Officials with the mayor's office tell us crews were on scene Wednesday to clean out the camp, but due to extreme temperatures and the condition of the site, work was postponed. The city, working alongside the state, says cleaning will continue next week. The mayor's office also says they are working to prevent future encampments at this location.
So they reach out to the city and they ask them about the cleanup because they said they would take care of this. And the city says, oh, we had to send the crews home because it's too dangerous and because the heat was too much. But don't worry, we're going to clean this up eventually. And we're working diligently to make sure that these encampments don't resurface again. How diligently are they working? Well, remember the tape around one part of the fence that doesn't even cover the big ass opening that allows everybody to go in? That is exactly how diligently the city of Seattle is working on the cleanup. But they're partnering with the state to do nothing, so you guys can sleep easy. Rest assured that the state and the city will be acting in concert to do absolutely nothing about this problem.
Even though the county is not bringing any charges in this case, it is possible the city may file misdemeanor charges. I reached out to the city's attorney's office today. They tell me they just got this report. They're working to figure out what to do next.
So this is probably what I can't stand more than anything. So we have this local news guy and he says, listen, the county's not filing any charges. Why? No reason at all whatsoever. They definitely should be filing charges. But don't worry, the city is looking into potentially, maybe, charging a misdemeanor for this arson. You know, this arson that caused this big plume of smoke that set this whole encampment on fire, that put a bunch of people in danger, that almost spread to the neighboring apartment buildings. They're going to be charged with the misdemeanor, the perpetrator behind this, maybe, possibly, who knows, we don't know, maybe the fire starter was Aladdin, and then possibly they'll be sentenced to some kind of probation or released immediately back onto the streets to set up another encampment to commit another arson. This is why these problems persist. This is why arson is up in the city of Seattle, because when you have somebody who commits arson, this is a dangerous act. People who do this are dangerous people. What do? They dilly-dally. They mess around. They don't charge immediately. They pivot it to another department. The other department says they're examining it, trying to figure out if setting this ginormous fire is actually illegal. And then they decide, well, we're going to charge it as a misdemeanor because it's no big deal. I mean, people could have died in this fire. It's a really dangerous situation. We're interviewing neighbors who are suffering from smoke inhalation, who almost lost where they live, almost became homeless due to the fire. And honestly, we can't determine whether or not this is a serious enough crime to even warrant a misdemeanor charge, let alone a felony charge, which, by the way, arson like this should definitely be charged as a felony. This got completely out of hand. It was incredibly dangerous. It ended up being set in a very populated area. There could have been homeless people in this encampment that ended up getting stuck and ended up dying from this. So the idea that you have to ponder whether or not you're even going to charge this, and then you say, if we are going to charge this, we're only going to charge misdemeanors, and maybe we'll clean this up sometimes next week, but we're also going to work and try our absolute best by doing nothing in order to prevent the encampment development from reforming in this exact spot, thus presenting that additional danger, is absurd on its face. Seattle, get your act together. I know you were the place that had that Chaz zone, the chop zone, and you called that the summer of love, but you need to straighten out. You need to fix this. And if you're a resident of Seattle, you have to know by now that the city of Seattle does not have your back. The governing bodies are not for you. They're for the unalienable super rights of the homeless people to not only camp anywhere they damn well please, not only use drugs in these open air markets, but apparently to set fires, put you in danger, potentially kill you, and that's only maybe, possibly, not at the county level for sure, but maybe at the city, a misdemeanor charge. A misdemeanor for setting this fire. Look, I'm so sick of this. I know a lot of people want to say blue cities, whatever, but the thing is, this is our country. This is our nation. These are our once great cities, and we're allowing them to decay, and the problems that lead to homeless people on the street are not unique to Seattle. They're not unique to San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, or whatever left-wing city that you can imagine. A lot of this is being driven by the opioid crisis. You know what that affects just as much as these urban areas? A bunch of different rural areas, and the idea that the Democratic Party at the national level is essentially using these left-wing cities as a model in order to deal with that ensures that this kind of stuff will spread, ensures that people will continue to go untreated, ensures that people will continually set fires, commit crimes up until the point where we actually do realize the full extent of the crime wave in this country. This is not sympathetic. This is not noble. This is not honorable. This is absolutely disgusting in every possible way. If you want to help these people, you don't let them live in squalor. If you want to aid these people, you don't let them set fires. If you want to assist these people, you don't let other people be victimized by the fires that are being set. You crack down on it. You treat arson seriously. You stop pretending that every violent crime, every victim having crime is a victimless, non-violent, no big deal mental health issue that is worthy of the social worker. You want to send in the social workers? Send them in when the fire's blazing. Don't send the firefighters in there. Why are we going to risk good, kind-hearted people that actually want to put their lives on the line if you believe social workers can solve this? You want them to talk to the fires? Have them do that. Have them try to get the fire in a diversion program if that's what you're about. But what I'm about is actually stopping this, cutting this off, removing these deviant people who repeatedly commit these crimes from the street so we can have a functioning society, getting these addicts into some kind of treatment so that some of them can get better. I understand it's not a catch-all. I understand that rehab is not perfect, but allowing these people to live in squalor for years on end is not a noble cause. It's not justified. It's morally wrong. It's repugnant, and we should stand up to it. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute chaos in Seattle. Till next time.